Hello, everybody. This is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools, and welcome to our session this afternoon on Social Squared. So we're going to be taking a look at the discussion board tool. We're going to have a look at what's new inside of Social Squared as well. But before that, for anybody that is new themselves to Social Squared, we're going to take a look at what the product actually is, what benefits it can bring your business and your users, and we'll also have a look at how we can basically use it from a user's perspective and also from a site owner's perspective as well in configuring the product. So we have just done a release as well, which is 3.7, and that's got many new features in the product. One of them, which is quite a major new feature, and we're going to be diving into that and having a look at that towards the end of the session as well. There will be the chance to ask questions. So as we go through, if there's any questions, make sure you either type it into the chat panel or if you want to put it in the Q&A panel, either of those are fine, and we'll make sure that we read those out at the very end of the webinar and go through and hopefully answer your questions. So once again, thanks very much for joining. For anybody that is new to Lightning Tools, what I'm going to do is just start off with a quick intro as to who we are as a company, and then we'll get straight into Social Squared and the benefits of the discussion board tool. So Lightning Tools is a company which is based in the UK, so we are very central in England. We have a tech support team, our sales office here in the UK, and we've also got a tech support team over in the US as well. So we've got a nice wide window of opportunity to engage with our team. If you do have any technical questions about the product, we can certainly help you out, and that's also for pre-sales questions and so on as well, which we'll be addressing as we go through. So we've been established for 15 years, and for those 15 years we've been building products that really enhance the Microsoft SharePoint experience, and of course that has now borders into the Microsoft Teams experience as well. So that's Lightning Tools, and we'll be having a look at what those products are in just a moment. We do also have a sister company which is known as Enlightening, and Enlightening is more of a coaching company. So we provide coaching towards a challenge or a solution that you're looking to build using either the Microsoft Power Platform or any of the sort of SharePoint related products, such as Teams and of course SharePoint itself. So if you're interested in coaching, then please reach out to enlightening.com, and Lightning Tools, of course, is the lightningtools.com, and that's where you're going to see the products that we have on offer. So the product portfolio includes things like permissions management and improving the permissions management for site owners and also SharePoint administrators. This also extends to Teams as well. We have a content aggregation tool which can aggregate or roll up SharePoint list and library content into a central location, allow you to build reports on that content, and that has now extended to also the Microsoft Graph and Search as well. So you can bring in content not just from SharePoint lists, but also from other areas such as Microsoft Planner, OneDrive, Teams itself, Microsoft To Do, that type of thing. So if it's in Microsoft 365, and it's capable of being reported upon through the Microsoft Graph, that's something that you can do with the Lightning Connector, and of course expose that content in a report format, either inside of a SharePoint web part or as a Teams tab as well. Discussion boards is obviously what we're going to be talking about here today, so we'll introduce that more fully in just a moment. But we also have some data integration tools for SharePoint on premises and also SharePoint online. One of the products is known as the Data Viewer, and that's a great product that actually works hand in hand with Social Squared that we're going to be looking at today for reporting against the Social Squared discussion board. So if you're interested in sort of user analytics and that type of thing, it's a great add-on tool as a reporting module. And it also works with SharePoint lists and external content, things like Microsoft Excel workbooks, or like say a SharePoint list, or even aggregated content by working with the Lightning Connector as well. So we have that data viewer product, and we've also got some SharePoint list form design and list actions. So you can transform any sort of standard SharePoint list form into a business form with multiple tabbed interfaces, lots of different columns, and also building in a series of actions to run against those forms or items inside the list as well. So if you're interested in learning more about those products, we have done some previous webinars, and you'll find them on lightningtools.com/webinars, or you can also sign up for a demo by navigating to those product pages and registering for a demo, and I'll be the person that hopefully delivers that. So that's the intro to Lightning Tools, and what we're going to be talking about obviously today is, as I mentioned, Social Squared, the discussion board tool. And what I want to do is just first of all put out there why Social Squared exists, or why discussion boards could also be useful for a business as well. So not just Social Squared, but any form of discussion board, because of course you've got some capabilities of discussion lists inside of SharePoint. They're very basic. They may meet your needs, but yeah, there are several different options that you have available to you. But what I want to suggest is the fact that you may be working at home or in the office, and you've got a question, and what you're going to do with that question. So if it's a business related question, so what we might do is reach out via email. That's possibly the first thing that people will do. So they'll drop an email to a colleague or something, and they'll ask that question. And you'll of course think, first of all, who's the best person that might possibly answer this? And you're going to single them out. You may also include one or two other people as well, but you'll send them an email, and hopefully they'll respond when they get around to it with the answer to your question. And if you think about the only people that have benefited to that, it's really just the person who asked the question. They've now benefited in knowing the answer. Hopefully it's a good answer or the right answer, but also anybody else that has been CC'd in on that email as well may have also benefited from it. But certainly it's not discoverable by anybody else inside the organization or anybody else who works inside your team. It's trapped inside your inbox, and unless you decide to forward it onto them, that's where it's going to remain, and nobody else will benefit from that. But one thing's for sure is that question is probably going to come up again in the future, and somebody else is going to ask it, and we'll have the same scenario repeat itself. Again, the person who's asking the question is going to be the only benefit or beneficiary of that question being answered. And the same is if we ask somebody in the corridor or in the office a question in person. That conversation is between two people or a select number of people, and they are the only people that will benefit from that discussion. So it's not necessarily a question answer situation. It may just be a general discussion, a brainstorming idea, but again, only the people there are the people that would actually benefit from it. And the same can be applied to a telephone call, to online meetings. It's only the people actually in the online meeting that will benefit, and also chat software as well is another thing. So if you have a one-to-one chat or even a one-to-many chat, it's the same sort of scenario. It's only people that are incorporated into that chat that are going to benefit from that discussion. So that's the beauty of discussion boards. And one of the things about discussion boards is everybody's kind of used them. So you may not have posted a question yourself, but I can guess that the majority of the people on this call have probably at some point run across an issue. It may be an error message inside of Microsoft SharePoint. It may be you're trying to look for the right ingredient replacement instead of parsley or something if you're a chef. It could be all sorts of different scenarios where you're typing in a question into Google or into Bing, and you're going to be served a page which has the answer to the question that you were looking to be answered, and that question is usually going to come from a subject matter expert. So if it was a SharePoint question that you had with the error message, surely there's somebody that may be a SharePoint consultant or a SharePoint trainer or something that has experienced that error message themselves, and they will reply to you. And it may even be that they share a link with you or something that's going to add more to their response, and you can learn from it. So they had no idea that you're going to ask that question. It's just there for you to discover through using search. So it benefits not just the person who asked the question at the very start of that discussion board conversation, but also it goes on to serve people for years and years. Quite often I've searched for something and I find that, yeah, it was a question that was answered back in 2013 or something like that. So that's really the purpose of the discussion board, is you can have this discussion going on, and it doesn't disappear. It doesn't go out of context, like a posts feed does, or a Yammer discussion. It's something that is categorized into a forum that is contextual. So we can create subcategories of conversations as well, and that's where Social Squared really fits in well with things like SharePoint sites and also Microsoft Teams channels as well. So we may create, for example, a discussion board for our sales team, so that they can ask sales-related questions to each other. But it's not just going to be for any type of sales question. We might want to break it down into sales questions for different products, for things like our permissions tool or for our content aggregation tool, so that if I came up against a sales related question for DeliverPoint in the future, I would know to navigate to the DeliverPoint forum before I did a search on the issue or the question that I have. So that's really the benefit of it, is structured discussions that you can search, and it goes on to serve those people for years to come. Lots of people benefit from the question being answered and also the answers to those questions as well. So when you do post a question or start a conversation in a discussion board, you are posting it with inside a community where it's relevant. So this is the other thing. You're not just you're creating a question about that parsley inside a SharePoint forum that's unlikely to be answered. We're going to navigate, if we want to ask a question, to a specific SharePoint forum, or we're going to go to a chef's forum or whatever it might be to post our question. So it's relevant. And even when we get to that posts view inside the chef forum, we would decide whether we're going to put it in the herbs category or whether we're going to put it in the desserts category. We're again going to choose the right sub forum or the subcategory in order to post our question. And in there, we're going to have a community of people that might be other chefs that are going to reply to us, but there could also be a subject matter expert that's going to verify the answer as well. So that would typically be a moderator that would mark a response as answered, or may also add more information to that reply themselves as well. So these are the benefits. Like I say, it's something that will serve people right now. So if you did have a question, you posted it into Social Squared inside of Teams, or you posted it into Social Squared inside of SharePoint, hopefully somebody's going to reply to you pretty quickly and you'll benefit from that response immediately. But it is something that if somebody else has that question in the future, it's going to help them as well. And it's through that categorization of the forum groups and the forums that makes things structured and therefore contextual and easily found. Okay, so just another example of this. This is actually my caravan, and I had my caravan service just a few months ago, and I used it for the first time since that service just last week. And when I went into the caravan, I was setting it up, I was configuring everything. I wanted to put the radio on, as I usually do, and I found that the radio app was actually missing from the control panel. And this was not something that I noticed at the point where it was serviced, but previous to that service, the radio icon was there. I could just press that radio icon and start listening to my favorite radio channel. So that was that had disappeared. And then I also noticed that there was a refrigeration icon as well that is usually on my control panel that had disappeared as well. So part of the service, they replaced a part of the control module, and I didn't expect that this was going to be failing. So I did some research, and I basically Googled Swift control panel missing apps, and sure enough, I was taken to a forum where somebody said, yeah, if the apps are missing, then you hold down the settings button. So here's the settings button here, and you hold it down for 10 seconds, and then it goes into advanced settings where you can go through and select which apps you want to enable on your control panel. So had that not have been the case, I would have ended up probably having to go on a long telephone call with a Swift engineer somewhere. May have cost me money in trying to find out what the resolution to that problem is. But thankfully, a Swift engineer had gone into a forum, had answered somebody's question prior to that with the correct answer about holding down the settings button for 10 seconds, and that resolved my answer as well. And this was a question that was literally posted about 4 years ago that benefited me just last week. So that's a sort of scenario that we may come across in our personal lives, but in business, the same sort of thing can happen. It may be we've got questions about working from home. It may be we have questions about our benefits to a company. It may be that we've got technical questions that we want to ask as well. And rather than asking these in a posts tab inside of Teams or an email where we may get responded to immediately, but we're the only beneficiary again, or we post it into the chat and it sort of goes out of context within a few days because yeah, there's other conversations that are going on. So with Social Squared, you can add the discussion board web part into SharePoint, and it's established inside that site with a number of different lists behind that site that serve and store the content. So if we were to go into the sales SharePoint team, for example, we're going to see the content is all related to sales, and we can categorize it further by maybe different regions, different products, different types of sales related questions. We could also go into more of a sort of organizational wide discussion type forum like this one about well-being in the workplace. So it's something that's going to serve everybody inside the organization, and it's something that they should all be involved in having the ability to post questions and get answers to questions. So you can create an instance of Social Squared inside your Teams channel. You can also create it inside of SharePoint. And if we create it inside of SharePoint, it can either be in a SharePoint site, it could also be in a communication site and a home site. And this is something that we're going to take a look at today. So that will determine who your audience is when you're creating that content and replying to that content. And inside of Teams, you've also got some choices there as well. So the discussion board can be added to a Teams channel, or we can also add it as a personal app, which means it appears here on the left-hand side and is more of sort of organizational wide discussion that's taking place. And fortunately, there is a very good Teams mobile app and there's a very good SharePoint mobile app. So you can use the standard Microsoft SharePoint mobile app or the Teams mobile app and also access Social Squared through those apps as well. That allows you to navigate the different teams that you're a member of, or the different SharePoint sites that you have access to, and you can post your questions, reply to questions through the mobile app as well. And Social Squared sort of extends its capabilities when it is being ran from that mobile experience to also work with the communication on your phone, so it can send you notifications when somebody replies to a post that you subscribe to, and it also gives you the ability to access things like photos on your phone as well if you wanted to include those inside a post or a new topic. So it's very flexible as to where you can use it inside of Teams and SharePoint. What you will find is in these examples of the wellbeing discussion, I've got a couple of different forum groups, as you can see. And another thing you can do is actually add several instances of Social Squared inside the same SharePoint site or inside the same team, but on different channels, and then decide which forum group is most relevant to the different channels or to the different SharePoint pages within inside the site. So it doesn't always have to be all of the forum groups that display. You can serve those based on the page that you're accessing or the channel that you're in. And that's something we'll look at as we go through. So as I mentioned, it is available for the mobile. There's different types of discussion boards as well that we mentioned. So you could use it for a technical Q&A. One of our customers recently showed me an example where they're using it as a water cooler replacement. So a water cooler discussion, and this was a great example of its use, where conversations that happen at the water cooler in the corridor could be about the football game last night. It could be about what you had for dinner last night or your favorite movie on Netflix, whatever it might be. And we want to encourage that type of conversation still as a cultural experience for people that are perhaps working remotely and feel disconnected. So one of the things you could do is build that into Social Squared as they did. So you could have a site or a team called the water cooler, and there could be a sports forum group. And inside that sports forum group, you may have baseball, you may have basketball, you may have football. So if you are interested in football but couldn't care less about basketball, then you can absolutely go into the football forum and get involved in some conversations in there, maybe give your 2 cents worth of what happened in the game last night and so on. So it keeps the conversations relevant to you as well as being easily found and easily discoverable. So you could also use Social Squared for sort of brainstorming ideas as well. It's got some great features around that for things like voting, likes, and so on as well. And regardless as to whether it's a technical Q&A, the water cooler example, or brainstorming, all of this is knowledge sharing as well. And what you end up with is a knowledge base of content that can be searched easily for years to come. So just like those examples on the internet, people can discover questions and answers to questions next year or the year after, and it will continue to serve new employees as they come into your organization full of new questions as well. So that's enough of slides for the time being. Let's jump into Social Squared and have a look at it. So I'm going to show you the well-being discussion example. So we're just going to jump into SharePoint here, and we'll have a look at it from an end user's perspective, first of all, both inside of SharePoint and inside of Teams. And one of the benefits that you're going to see here is the fact that I can have some users that are using SharePoint if they prefer SharePoint as a platform for maybe they have a slightly different user experience or perspective of Microsoft 365 to other people, where they're using SharePoint to store documents in document libraries and using more of the lists, whereas other people inside that same team may use Microsoft Teams and access that same site. But they can both use Social Squared contextually, whether you're using SharePoint or Teams. They can be involved in the same conversations because they're using the same repository, which is lists inside of that site. So on my home site here is a link to the Lightning Tools Employee Wellbeing. So we're just going to jump into that. And what you'll see here is a site all about wellbeing in Lightning Tools. And it's all fictional, so don't worry. But in here, we've got 3 different forum groups. There's one about work-life balance. We've got a forum group about health and safety in the workplace as well. And we've got another forum group about employee growth and development. So under each of those different forum groups, which I can expand and collapse. So as the number of forums grows, we can maybe collapse at what's not relevant to us at this moment in time and focus on the forums that are. So if I was interested in working remotely, for example, I could jump into that forum and see the different topics that people have been created, the different discussions that are taking place around working remotely. So we can see a few examples. There's one here that says how employees can protect their health. If we jump into that, sure enough, we can see some content that somebody created, and we can read it and we can reply to it. So again, that might be formatted as a question. It may be just a statement, maybe somebody's thoughts, whatever it is, I can actually reply. So if I hit reply in there, you'll notice that I get this nice sort of rich text editor where I can type in my response. So I'm just going to grab some random text, so it may not make sense to the context of what I'm replying to. I'm just going to drop in some text to show you that we can drop in some text. There we go. And I might also drop in an image as well. So in my reply, I can just simply copy paste the image in there. We can resize that image. We can caption the image as well. So I just have 2 men. There we go in the office. And once I select that, I can also position where that image is going to control or display inside the body of my content and so on. And one of those options is to have the text wrap around the image, and that can happen on the left or the right. So as we keep on typing, it's just simply going to wrap around the image just like it would do inside of Word. And when we are replying, you'll find that you've got the ability to use all of the features of the rich text toolbar. So at the top here, we've got paragraph formatting. We can highlight keywords in different colors. So if we wanted to bring somebody's attention to a certain part of our post or our reply, we can do that. If there's any developers amongst us that are using Social Squared as a discussion forum around writing code, then what you can do is also paste in different programming languages. So rather than trying to display that with formatting that isn't applicable to that type of language, it will maintain the formatting for sort of Python or JavaScript and so on as we paste that in. So you'll have all the indents in the right places and that type of thing as well. You can also, of course, insert things like hyperlinks. We can make Word hyperlinks. We can insert tables, even YouTube videos and things like that. We can just simply paste in the URL and it will embed the video into your reply as well. So lots of different things there we've got through the rich text editor. Now, when I'm replying, we can also tag the content. This instance of Social Squared is actually configured for using managed metadata at the moment, and it can run in two different modes, and I'll show you that setting shortly. So if I was to tag this, it's literally going through to the different topics that I've created inside my term store. So if we want to have uniformity around the tags, we can do it this way, or you can leave it that users can come up with whatever tags they want, very much like a hashtag inside of Twitter, and tag the content that way as well. And I'll show you how you can control that in each instance of Social Squared. So there's my reply. So just going to hit reply, and we've now responded to that post. So there's my reply here, and I'm just going to do this as the same user, save sort of chopping and changing who I'm logged in as. But one of the things you will notice here is that I can also do things like mark this as answered. So if this was a straightforward question and I replied with the answer, such as how do I reset my password, and then I gave the answer as to what steps you need to take to reset your password, the topic creator, or the person who asked the question, could mark my reply as answered if that benefited them. And what that will do is just give a little symbol here to say, yeah, this is marked as answered, and you're giving that feedback to other users to say, yeah, this reply worked for me. So if I was also looking in the future as to how to reset my password, and I did a search on how do I reset my password, and I came across this post, I know to trust this answer. And we know that that worked for the employee that asked the question. So you'll notice that any posts that have been marked as answered will show as answered here. This also helps you as a subject matter expert. So if your role is to reply to a lot of people, you'll know which posts have been answered and which ones haven't been. So you can go through and focus on those that haven't been answered yet. What you can also do is show the answer. So if you have lots of different replies to a particular topic and you want to jump straight to the responses, you can click onto show answered, and that will take us straight to any of the posts that are marked as answered inside of that discussion thread. Okay, so that's how we can reply to a post, and searching for a post is just as important as replying to somebody. So again, if I was wanting to search on the word remote, for example, for remote working, we can do that. We can see all of the different topics that contain the word remote, and the word remote may appear inside the content of the post. It may also appear as a tag inside the post or as the subject of the topic as well. And for that matter, you can go through and refine where you want to search for that particular word, whether it is as part of a tag or whether it is part of the content and the title, and also refine by date and time if you want to as well. So that's one way of just sort of discovering a topic. You'll notice that if I was to skip that step, so if I've not done my research into maybe how do I reset my password or something along those lines, and I just simply start a new topic, so I want to ask a new question, I'm going to start off with the word reduced, which is the start of another subject. So you can imagine, how do I reset my password being a subject? If I was to just start typing that in as my subject and use certain keywords like password and reset, it's going to actually show me that there is a post already created that's containing some of those keywords. And that allows me to click straight into that, and then I can read and learn from that one rather than asking a fresh question again. So it has that built in, which is a great feature. You could also find content based on tags. So you'll notice in the top left-hand corner here, I can bring up a panel of different views of Social Squared. And one of those views is a tag cloud view. So this shows all of the tags that have been used against each of those different posts and the replies as well. So there's one that says remote workers. So if that's something that is interesting to me, I can click onto that and see any post that has been tagged with remote workers as a tag. So yeah, here we go. There's that one that has remote workers in there. Okay, so that's how we can reply to people. We can, like I say, add a new topic in here. So that's just like the reply experience. You get the subject, and you also get the rich text editor for your content when you're creating a brand new post. And that looks, like I say, just like when you reply to somebody, you get that same rich text editor. And we've got the breadcrumb trail here to navigate back and forth. So when we're looking at the different forum groups and the forums, it might be that as a user, I am interested in being notified of any new topics that appear inside of this category, inside of this forum. So one of the things I can do here as a user is actually subscribe to that forum, and you'll notice that's a simple toggle. So we can subscribe and unsubscribe. And if you happen to be a site owner or have administrator rights to Social Squared, you can also subscribe other people as well to this particular forum. So you'll notice there's other users in here that have been selected already to be notified of new posts and replies to posts inside this forum. So you do get an email in that regard. It will contain a snippet of the body of that message, as well as a hyperlink to take you to that post. So you're not just relying on having to remember to come into Social Squared. You could be notified if this is an area that is really interesting to you, and you want to know of new topics. And the same sort of thing can happen with inside a particular discussion as well, inside a particular topic. So if I actually unsubscribe at this level, and maybe I go into how can I achieve a much better work-life balance. So if I go in here, I can see that this hasn't been responded to yet, but it's a topic that I'm interested in. So what I could do is just simply subscribe to that topic. So again, we've got the ability to do that just to that topic rather than the entire forum. So once more, we'd get notified should somebody reply to this, and then we can go through and learn from it. And whilst we're in here, we can also give some feedback. So if we do read this post, it might be that we want to like it. So we can increase the likes on there. We can also rate it as well. And if I haven't yet got time to read it, I could also go through and mark it as a favorite, or if I just want to come back to it again. And that is something that will then appear inside the favorites view. So we can see here, any topic that I marked as favorite, I can always come back to at a later date and go through and read those either again or read it for the first time if I've got more time to do so. And you'll see things like those average ratings and so on coming through onto the forum view, so you can see the average rating for each user as they've gone through and rated it. So this is how we can navigate inside of SharePoint. And what I'm going to do here is just bring up Teams. So I'll open that up in a new tab, and I'm just going to use the web app to demonstrate this. So what you'll notice is we've got exactly the same product, but also the exact same content. So I'm still inside the Wellbeing SharePoint site, but just inside of Teams, and inside the general channel, you'll notice that I've got a tab here called Wellbeing Discussions. So that is actually Social Squared. You can see it looks a little bit more Teamsy, and it adopts the different views that you have inside of Teams. So if you happen to prefer the dark mode, for example, Social Squared will adapt to that dark mode, and likewise with the high contrast mode as well. And if we were inside of SharePoint, of course, it looks more SharePoint-y, but it would also adapt to any theme that you've got going on inside your site. This is actually controlled by the hub site at the moment, so I can't change it here. But if I went for the orange theme or something like that, all of the accents of Social Squared would also change to be in line with that particular theme. So inside of Teams, we've got the same 3 forum groups, and if we were to jump into working remotely and look at some of this content, you'll see that we'll see the same stuff. There's my reply that I made a moment ago from within inside of SharePoint. So there's my image and so on, and I can again reply to it here. So I'm just going to reply with just a simple response. And some of the features inside of Teams are more specific to Teams as well, like the ability to create a Teams meeting whilst we're replying. So if this is something that somebody's requiring some help, and I feel that, yeah, I could help them, but I'm really going to need to meet with them, I could actually decide, let's go and create a Teams meeting, and I'll help them that way as well. So in here, we'll just have, I'll call this meeting A, and we can choose the start time and the end time. We can create a notification inside the Teams channel, for this meeting and so on as well. And now we'll actually have a meeting created where people can join the Teams meeting by clicking into that thread or through the posts channel, since I listed it in there as well. Okay, so some very sort of team specific features, but the important point that I'm trying to make here is the fact that whether people are using Teams or SharePoint, it doesn't really matter, because that same response is going to come through here. So as we navigate down, there's that Teams meeting that we just created through the Teams UI. So those conversations can go across both platforms. It's using the same content inside the SharePoint lists. Okay, so that's the exact same product inside of Teams that we have inside of SharePoint as well. And one of the things I am going to also demonstrate is how we can be more contextual with our forum groups. So if I was to create a channel for work-life balance, so I'll go through and create that channel inside the same team. How we add Social Squared to this team is just by clicking onto the Add a tab, and we can select Social Squared here and save that. And what you're going to see initially is we've got all 3 forum groups coming back. So what I'm going to do is actually specify which forum group or forum groups I really want to sort of focus in on with inside this particular channel. So that means as we go into these different channels, people can involve themselves in conversations that are contextual to that particular channel, but maybe on the general channel, we show all of the conversations in all of the forum groups in that view. Okay, so that's how we can go through and use Social Squared. Configuring it, if we're configuring it for the first time, we're simply going to either go and add the tab into Teams, or we're going to add the app, the web part into a SharePoint site. And what we'll get is an unconfigured instance of Social Squared. It will create the lists for us, which will be the content storage inside of that particular site. And we can then go through and take the first steps of building out the forum groups that we want, the forums that we need to have, and also configuring some of the different preferences that we want inside that instance. So what we're going to do is go through and create that water cooler example. So I'm just going to jump back into SharePoint again, and we're going to go up to the hub site this time, and I'm going to create a new page. So we'll go through and add a page. I'm going to select the blank page option, and we'll call it water cooler. Of course, we could make this fancy by maybe changing the image and so on to a water cooler or whatever we want to do. But more importantly, I'm going to go in and add Social Squared. So when we go to click the plus icon here, we can start to type in Social Squared. So there's the Social Squared forums web part. And whilst we're inside of here, we can go into the forum settings. So as you can see, I don't have any forum groups, I don't have any forums, I don't have any content. It's just a blank web part at the moment. So in here, we can go through and create our sports forum group. We could add our movies forum group, and we could also have cooking. Let's add that one. Okay, so just somewhere where people can come in and just have general conversations about things. So under the sports forum group, as I click onto view forums, we can now add a forum. So we can create the football forum. So we can say discuss football. And notice that we've got the option of creating a moderator in here. So that moderator will have effectively admin rights over just that one forum. So they can go through and delete posts that they may fear are inappropriate. They can edit anybody's posts. They can move topics and that type of thing, which you'll see in just a moment. So if we just add a couple of those, so this is where we're going to add the baseball. So we'll have baseball discussions going on there, and we'll then go back up to forum groups, and under movies we'll just have Netflix. Of course, we could have cinema and so on. And under cooking, we'll have cakes. Sorry if I'm making you all hungry. And we could also have other forums as well, of course. So that's how we can go through and create our initial sort of layout on those conversations taking place. And we can now go through and publish that. And so that instance of Social Squared is there, and we can go in and start to, sorry, let me just refresh that. Access our different forums. So now we can go through and add a new topic about football and so on. Okay, and settings wise, as we come into here, we can select the instance of Social Squared and go into the web part settings. And the web part settings are very much the same as what you're going to see inside of Teams. So we can hit the drop down here and choose settings on the tab, and that will display the side panel. Or we can do the same thing inside of SharePoint by going into the web part properties. And inside those web part properties, notice that you can change the title of this. So if we don't actually want it to have the Social Squared branding in there, we could actually just call that water cooler discussions or something like that. And again, we could decide what forum groups we want to show on this particular page. So if we had multiple instances of Social Squared inside of SharePoint, we can decide which ones we want to show on each of those pages there. And we've also got some notifications. So how do you want to be notified? And so if we just focus in on Teams for a moment, the email notifications inside of Teams will take you to the tab where that notification took place. You'll get an email. You can click onto the link and it will take you to the tab where Social Squared resides. Or you can also have channel notifications inside of Teams as well. So that's where you'll get the banner appearing in the bottom right-hand corner because it is a channel notification about a new post being created if you are subscribed to it. There's other refinements as well, such as how many topics per page and how many posts per page we have and that sort of thing, and also the type of tagging that we want. So this tagging here, a minute ago we were using the term store, so this is where we can turn on the term store for tagging, but this new instance of Social Squared actually just has the default tags. So what you'll notice is if I was to go into the football forum, for example, and add a new topic. So I was actually at a football game last night. It was England versus Germany, and this is for those of you that are from the States. This was actually a soccer match, I guess, not really football. But yeah, England won 3-1, just in case you're interested in that. So what we'll do is just grab some content from a page that I'm on here. If I can. Sorry, just accepting cookies and all that. So we can go through and copy, paste some content. And again, we can grab an image. And this was actually the Arnold Clark Cup with the England ladies team winning against Germany. So there we go. We can go through and create our post, and notice in here we can tag it. So now I don't have to choose from the term store. We can just tag this however we want. So I can put in the word football. We can have Arnold Clark Cup and that type of thing, which will be then easy for people to find that content if that's what they're searching for. And those tags will just appear inside the tag cloud here. Okay, so that's configuring Social Squared for the first time with things like the tags and that type of thing. And like I say, you can come in and add new forum groups and forums if you need to, and you can also revisit some of those different properties as well. And we're going to focus in on some of the refinements to these properties that we've been making recently in just a moment. All right, so that's configuring Social Squared as an owner. What I want to focus on now is just some of the new features that we've introduced in this build of Social Squared. So this is 3.7, which we made available to you last week. And some of the time that we've spent recently on Social Squared has been around the user experience and improving that. And if you have used Social Squared already in the past, you may have noticed a few different changes. If you didn't, I'm going to go through and point those out to you. So one of them is we've got now a left-hand navigation panel. So this wasn't the case before. What that means, and I'm just going to go back to the other instance where we've got more stuff going on. So we used to have a panel that would appear down the left-hand side here, and it had lots of different icons that appeared confusing to people. And that's based on the feedback that you gave us. If you happen to like that, then first of all, try to unlike it. But now what you can do is actually turn it back on if you want to. So in here, we've got some configuration options on whether you want to have that panel displaying or not. There we go. It's known as the sidebar. So this is what Social Squared did look like in 3.6, but in 3.7 it's different now. So we've got the ellipsis in the top left-hand corner, and that shows me all the different views. And you'll notice it's got a description of what each of these views are. Whereas when you had the sidebar showing, it was just the icon, and even I didn't know what these were half the time. I had to hover over them and wait for that little tooltip to pop up before I knew which one was maybe recent activities versus you know, the followers view and so on. So that's a nice little improvement that we've made. We feel that is anyway, where you've got the ellipsis there if you want to go through and access the different views. And just whilst we're on this, recent activities is actually quite a good view to look at. So it will show you what's recent across all of the forums and the forum groups. So if you do want to just keep an eye on what's new, what you could do is have this view, and then you can also pin that view open. So that will remember that setting for you in this browser or with that particular browser on your machine. So when we come in here, it will always show you the recent activities view rather than you having to go in and out of each of the different forums. So that's one of the settings that we've made. You've also got the ability to go through and control which columns are displayed, and this has been based on some feedback that we've had where people may display Social Squared in a small frame on their site. Maybe on a communication site or something like that, and they don't want to have the topics column, the replies and views column, and the latest post column. So you'll notice that each of these columns can now be shown or hidden. So it's going to wait for me to actually close down the panel for that change to take place. But yeah, if we didn't want to see the latest post column or something like that, we can go through and hide that, which is useful from that point of view. Some other changes you'll notice is as we go through into the forum view, these buttons used to just be hyperlinks. Now it's like a proper command bar that is more in line with what you would get inside of a SharePoint list. So it should be more intuitive to your users. And we did get a lot of feedback from you about the add new topic button. People couldn't find it. So it was just a link before. So now it's a button, should be a little bit more obvious. And the same thing has been carried through to the actual topic view as well. So you notice we've got the command bar there as well, with some of those features like moving the topic, making them sticky, locking the topic, that type of thing that we can do from within inside the topic itself. So we've got the new command bar, and as we scroll down, we used to have a lot of clutter at the bottom of each post. There was markers answered, markers featured, there was a reply, etc., all along the bottom here. We now have, in line with Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, just a single reply. So we can click onto that, and that will bring up the reply button. And if we want to see the other options, then that's behind the ellipsis there. Another new feature whilst we're here is the reply with quote. So it's not always obvious who I'm replying to. So if I wanted to reply to this post here, I can simply come in and say reply with quote, and it will embed the message that I'm replying to in italics. So I'll put I am replying to this post. Okay, so once I've made that reply, as we scroll down, it's very obvious what I'm responding to. So that's another new feature you've got. So either reply or reply with quote. And we've just made a few other things a little bit more obvious as well, like mark as answer instead of just saying answered, which is what it used to say, and so on. So just a couple of minor improvements there around the UI. And you'll also notice in the top above the likes, above the voting, is the ability to not just like, but you can also laugh at people or look shocked at people or angry, whatever you want to do. So we can use those to give more feedback on what we thought about the post. And if you don't like that, we have had some mixed reviews on it, you can shut it off. So in here on the again, the right hand side, the emojis here, so you can turn likes on and off, and you can turn the other emojis on and off as well. So if you just want it how it used to be, you will now just have likes. If you don't want those and just want to keep it to voting, you can turn it off altogether. So that's completely configurable depending on how you want that to appear. You'll notice also that the badge has changed. So you can now customize the badge. So in here we've got the select a badge button, and literally you can have almost whatever you want. So if we want to have a beer mug, so if people reply to lots of posts, you can award them with beer instead of badges. You can also have balloons if you want to. There's almost anything in here. So there we go. So again, depending on the type of forum that you're creating, the type of culture that you want to have, you can go through and select the badges that people get awarded. The more they post and the more they reply to people. So we have that option as well. And also there's other refinements such as enabling the voting and so on, which can be turned on or turned off as well. So that's some of the new user experience features that we have inside of Social Squared. Hopefully you'll see that appears a little bit more modern, a bit more in line with the modern SharePoint lists and with inside of Teams as well. So moving on to something completely new is adaptive cards. And if you don't know what adaptive cards are, there's lots of information on this on the internet. You might find something in a forum discussing it, but also I'm going to point it out to you as well. So what we can do inside of SharePoint now is make something a home site. So we have SharePoint team sites, we have SharePoint communication sites, and inside your tenant, you can have a home site. So a single site that is literally the home site for your organization. And this is mine. So this is Lightning Tools software I've actually gone through and created as a home site. So it started off life as a communication site, but I promoted it to a home site. And that's something you can do inside the SharePoint admin panel. And once you've made it a home site, it is available through Teams and Viva Connections. So you'll notice as I go to Viva Connections inside Teams now, I can actually see my SharePoint home site. So people can kind of start using SharePoint in a bigger way, the intranet through the Teams experience. And that's not just through Viva Connect, but you'll also notice even inside of Teams now, although I've got the Wellbeing discussions Social Squared instance as a tab, of course I could just use this new site tab as well that has been deployed over the last few weeks, and that allows me to also just go through and use Social Squared as though it's SharePoint through the Teams experience as well. But the one thing that I want to point out to you here in Viva Connections is not just accessing a SharePoint communication site or a SharePoint home site through Teams, but you've also got these things called adaptive cards. And if I jump back into SharePoint for a moment, click onto the cog icon in the top right corner, you'll notice that at the bottom here is a Setup Viva Connections link. So as I go into there, I've got a dashboard that I can create. And the dashboard is actually a web part that you can put onto your home site. It's blank at the moment. I've not created anything on there. But as I click onto edit, I can start to design that dashboard. And these are known as adaptive cards that I can go through and add onto the dashboard. So we've got a mobile view, and we've also got a desktop view. And as we click onto the plus button, you'll notice that there's some different cards that we can go through and add, as well as a card designer. So one of the things that I might decide that I want to do is add a link to a website. So as I add that and configure it, we can choose the card size. So in here, it can be large or small. And we can put in the website address that we want to link to and give it a title. Let's call this Lightning Tool. Whoops. Sorry, I picked that up. And it's got a description as well from that website. We can customize the image. So if we wanted to change the image to the Lightning Tools logo or something like that, we can do so. And we can also choose a target audience as to who's going to see this card as well. So once I've configured all of that, that card is available, and people can just click onto that, and it's going to open up the link to that particular website. So there we go, to the Lightning Tools website. And what we've developed is some of these cards for Social Squared. So if you are maybe somebody that works as a subject matter expert, likes to reply to a lot of people and their questions inside of Social Squared, what you could do is add the Unanswered Topics view. And notice that this is showing me that there is one unanswered topic. So it's just some high-level information that you can add to those Viva Connect dashboards. So there's the unanswered topic one, and we're also going to go through and add the topic subscription, which would allow me to go through and subscribe to any of the topics. There's the England versus Germany topic. So once I've created my dashboard here using the adaptive cards, and again, maybe set those as small or large, so we can go through and change that using the properties as well. You can even customize this down to a particular forum group. So if I don't want it to span all of the forum groups, maybe I did want to focus in on sports, we could do that. We could actually have one adaptive card for sports and another one for a different forum group, to keep them separate if we wanted to do it that way. Or we could have it span all of them. Once we've configured it, we basically just get to publish that. So there's our card, and we can check out what it's going to look like in a mobile or a desktop view. So I'm going to now go to my page and modify that page. So you'll notice anywhere on this SharePoint page, we can go through now and add the dashboard for Viva Connect. So we've got that high-level information here. So SharePoint belongs in this site, which you saw me create. You saw me create the forum groups and so on, but I've just got this this useful information where we can go through and say, yeah, I want to view all the unanswered topics, and there's just one unanswered topic. So now I can go through and view it. So that's one of the things we can do there, and we can also go through and subscribe to different topics as well. So if I want to subscribe to that one, we can do that through that adaptive card as well. Okay, so that's a new feature for Viva Connect. So if you've not used Viva Connect yet, if you're planning on it, just be aware that there's some Social Squared adaptive cards, and these are likely to grow as well. We're going to get a few more developed, but this is just the sort of initial ones. And the last point I just want to mention is an improved deployment. So one of the challenges that we did have with Social Squared is when you add the Social Squared web part into Teams or into SharePoint, the first thing it does is provision those lists as the repository for the content for your site. And if you happen to click away whilst it was in the middle of doing that, we had to do some work in tech support to fix that for you. So now this is all improved. You can't do anything until those are created. So it's creating that as a modal window. So yeah, you can't make that mistake. All right, so I did that. I did the demonstration. So there are some resources. You can obviously go out to the Lightning Tools website, and from there you can book a private demonstration if you want to, or you can download a 30-day trial of Social Squared. If you're an existing customer, you can go to the customer center and you can download the latest instance of Social Squared from there as well. It's all available for you to download now. And also, this webinar will be up on our website tomorrow, so it'll be under the webinars page on our website, and you'll also see some upcoming webinars there as well about some of our other products. So what I'm going to do now is just open up for any questions. So I see there's a couple of entries in the chat window. I'm just going to bring that up. So just give me a moment whilst I read those. Excellent. So first question here is it possible to report on the number of posts answered? Yes. So this is where we do get into, I mean, you don't have to use the data viewer for this, but the data viewer is very good for this type of thing. So all of the content is residing inside the SharePoint lists. So what you can use is the data viewer to report on that content. And I can show you an example of this. I've got a technical support example of Social Squared. And hopefully this is it. Let me just go to pages. Yeah. So as we open up this page here, this is a technical discussion board on different products. So you've got Teams and Planner and programming languages and so on. So if we wanted to report against that, I've already got some examples set up here. Where we're using the data viewer against those SharePoint lists. So you could, of course, use Power BI or something as well if you wanted to, but what this is doing is using our data viewer web part, and it's showing you lots of different ways of looking at the Social Squared content. And one of the things that I think directly answers your question is I'm using the data viewer here to list all of the unanswered posts. We could have done a count on that as well if we wanted to. And I've got some conditional formatting. So it's shown red if it's not been answered within a specific amount of time, showing amber if that time is coming up where it should have been answered, and then it's showing green if it perhaps it doesn't need to be answered just yet. So as I go into edit this page here, I'll show you briefly how that's configured. So this particular one is using the data viewer against the list. The list is SS posts. We select the columns that we want to show, and this is a calculated column here to work out how many days or how many days old the post is. And then we've also got the display on the last page, just doing a little bit of refinement. And you'll see here on the number of days column that there's the conditional formatting. So if the number of days is greater than 20, it's showing a red icon. If it's between 10 and 20, it's showing the amber icon. And if it's less than 10, it's showing a green icon. So that's using the data viewer for that. And to also point out this particular instance here, this is using the chart view rather than the grid view. So we can configure the chart in any way we want. We can make that a 3D chart if we wanted to, and that type of thing. So each of these can be, yeah, like I say, configured against those different lists in the back end to give you the report that you're after. So yeah, certainly it's possible to do that. And also there is, of course, the Unanswered Topics adaptive card that I just mentioned a moment ago as well. And you also have the views inside of Social Squared. So in the top left-hand corner here, we've got Unanswered Topics as a view there too. So it's not giving you just a total number, but it is going through each of the different topics that have not been answered. And yeah, it looks like there's a follow-on question to that one, which, sorry, I'm jumping a question from somebody else, but I just saw this one flag up. So is the data viewer included with Social Squared or is a separate app? So it is a separate app, but there is a package. So as we come down here to Social Squared on our website, and go against our pricing here, you'll notice there's a Social Squared Plus that gives you a 50% discount on the data viewer, but that can then be used with Social Squared. It can also be used against all of the other data sources as well. So it's not limited to Social Squared. You could use it against Excel, you could use it against other SharePoint lists, or against BCS. You can go against a SQL Azure database. There's all sorts of things that you can report against using the data viewer. So you have full access to that, not just for Social Squared. Excellent. So yeah, another question here is, so I'm not able to see other people's questions, so I'll just put, oh, sorry, no, that's unrelated, sorry. Okay, so how do we add users? Sorry, that's a question. How do we add users into the forums? So can guests be added? Excellent. So this is something that people often get a bit confused over with Social Squared is, how do you set up users and so on for it. This is a product that is built into the SharePoint framework. It's a web part that you add to a site or you add to a team. And the user configuration and so on is just based on that site or that team. So you can create members of your team in your normal way. You can add users to SharePoint in the normal way. And anybody that is a user against that SharePoint site or as a member of the team can start to use Social Squared within it. And all of the content is secured in that way. So just like standard SharePoint lists, you would not be able to access the content inside of a SharePoint list unless you had permissions to it. And that's exactly the way Social Squared works as well. So your content lives inside of your tenant, inside of your SharePoint lists, secured by your authentication, your permissions that you've got set up, and so on. So there is yet no user configuration or anything like that other than what you already have inside of SharePoint. Okay, so I think that's the only questions. So at that point, I'm going to thank everybody for attending. But if you do have other questions that come up, please feel free to email them across. So if they're sales related, you can reach out to sales@lightningtools.com. Also, if you want to get some help, then just help@lightningtools.com. We'll get you that, and we'll be able to provide some technical help as well. So yeah, thank you very much for attending, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all on the next webinar, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.